The jade pendant hit the mahogany desk with a sound that was almost musical, almost delicate, nothing like the chaos that had earned it 3 hours earlier. Seung-Woo didn't look up from the divorce decree he'd just signed. His dragon tattoo pulsed against his neck, black ink crawling up toward his jawline like it was trying to strangle him from the inside. The tattoo seemed darker tonight, angrier, as if the ink itself knew what he was about to do. 24 hours, Jazmine. His voice was granite, cold, final. After that, if you're still breathing soul air, you're not my wife anymore. He finally lifted his eyes, and they were empty, void of everything they'd once held when he looked at her. You're a target. Jazmine Kang stood perfectly still across from him, her olive trench coat still damp from the rain outside. Water dripped slowly onto the imported Italian marble floor, each drop marking time like a countdown she couldn't stop. Underneath her coat, she wore the tactical gear she always kept hidden, the gear she'd been wearing when she intercepted 3 men at the docks just hours ago. 3 men who'd been sent to eliminate her husband while he slept. Her knuckles were bruised from the confrontation. Her muscles ached from moving faster than she'd ever moved before. The man she'd just saved didn't even notice. She could see the divorce papers from where she stood. Heavy cardstock. Expensive. The kind of paper that said this decision cost something. Her name was already printed in neat black letters. Jazmine Kang. He'd planned this, prepared it. Had it drawn up by lawyers while she was out there, in the shadows, working for him, protecting him, sacrificing everything to keep him alive. Seung-Woo, don't. He cut her off like she was a stranger, like she hadn't spent 3 years standing between him and danger. Like she was nothing more than a problem to be eliminated. The evidence is clear. You leaked our supply routes. You sold us out to Tae-Jun-ho's crew. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, she saw something almost like pain flash across his face. But it was gone before she could grasp it. My mother showed me everything. His mother, of course, Mi Kang, the matriarch. The woman who'd smiled at their wedding while planning Jazmine's destruction from the very first day. The woman who'd called her a stain on the family name. The woman who'd whispered poison into her son's ear every single day for 3 years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And tonight, she'd struck. Jazmine's hand tightened around the dragon's heart jade, still hidden in her coat pocket. The edges pressed into her palm, sharp and cold. She wanted to throw it at him, wanted to scream that the evidence was manufactured. That Mi Kang had orchestrated this whole thing with surgical precision to get rid of the black woman who dared marry into her pristine Korean empire. The outsider, the foreign influence, the woman who would never be good enough, no matter how many threats she neutralized to protect this family. But what was the point? He'd already chosen who to believe, and it wasn't her. Behind Seung-Woo, floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Seoul skyline, glittering like broken glass against the night sky. The city sprawled out beneath them, beautiful and deadly, full of enemies moving in the dark. Somewhere out there, in rooms just like this one, men were already celebrating, already planning their next move. Without her silent interference, without her watching the shadows, they'd tear him apart within a week. And he had no idea. He had no idea that the sniper who'd had him in crosshairs 2 years ago never took the shot, because Jazmine had gotten to him first. He had no idea that the poisoned wine at the Busan meeting never touched his lips because she'd switched the bottles. He had no idea that the car rigged to explode had been disabled by her hands in the middle of the night. 3 years of invisible warfare. 3 years of being his ghost, his shadow, his silent guardian, and he'd never known, never suspected, never even wondered why he had survived when so many others hadn't. "I loved you," she said quietly. Not past tense as a mistake, past tense as a burial, as a eulogy for something that died the moment he chose his mother's lies over 3 years of her truth. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe. Regret. His hand hesitated over the papers for just a fraction of a second, but whatever he was feeling died as quickly as it came, smothered by pride and poisoned loyalty to a mother who'd never wanted Jazmine to breathe the same air as her precious son. "You have until tomorrow night," Seung-Woo repeated, turning back to his desk, dismissing her, erasing her. "Sang will escort you out." The lieutenant appeared in the doorway as if summoned by those words alone. Sang Sung-hyun stood there in his leather jacket, scarred knuckles visible even from across the room. He looked like a man who'd seen too much and knew even more. His eyes met Jazmine's for just a second, and there was apology there, confusion, recognition of an injustice he couldn't name, but could feel in his bones. But he said nothing. In this world, loyalty wasn't a choice. It was survival. Jazmine walked forward slowly, each step deliberate and measured. She'd learned long ago how to move without making sound, how to cross a room like smoke, how to disappear when she needed to. But tonight, she let her boots echo on the marble, let him hear her leaving, let him remember this sound when he realized what he'd done. She pulled the dragon's heart from her pocket, the jade pendant glowing faintly green under the penthouse lights, pulsing like it had a heartbeat of its own. For 3 years, she'd worn it against her skin, protected it, kept it close. It had become part of her, this small piece of jade carved into the shape of a dragon's heart, intricate and ancient and worth more than gold. But it wasn't just jewelry, it was so much more than that. She set it down on the desk between them, right next to the divorce papers that would make her a ghost in the eyes of the law. "You'll want to keep this," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight he couldn't understand yet. "It's more valuable than you know." Seung-Woo didn't even look at it. His eyes stayed fixed on the window, on the city he ruled, on the empire he thought he'd built with his own hands. He had no idea that empire had been standing on foundations she'd reinforced every single day. Jazmine turned and walked toward the door. The scent of expensive scotch and cold rain followed her out, mixing with the faint smell of gunpowder still clinging to her clothes from earlier. Behind her, she could feel his presence. Massive, unmovable, tragically blind to the war she'd been fighting in his name. 3 years of secret operations, 3 years of intercepted threats, plans she'd dismantled, dangers she'd neutralized before they ever reached him. 3 years of being invisible so he could be invincible. 3 years of loving a man who looked right through her while she worked in the dark. And now she was leaving. Now she was becoming exactly what he'd always seen her as. Nothing. The elevator doors closed on his penthouse, on his empire, on the man she'd loved enough to sacrifice everything for, but who'd never loved her enough to trust her. As the elevator descended, she pulled out her phone, one text from her sister Zendaya. "You okay?" She typed back, "I'm out. Don't look for me." The elevator seemed to fall forever, each floor another memory dropping away. The first time he'd smiled at her, the first time he'd said he loved her, the first time she'd realized his mother would never accept her, the first time she'd had to choose between her pride and his safety. She'd always chosen him. Until tonight. Outside, Seoul was waiting in the rain. The streets glistened like oil, reflecting neon signs in languages she'd learned to read, in a city she'd learned to call home. But home was a lie. It had always been a lie. She was a shadow guardian without anyone left to guard, a protector without a purpose. And somewhere out there, in the darkness between the skyscrapers, his enemies were already moving, already circling, already preparing to strike at the man who just exiled his only real protection. Tae Jun-ho was probably laughing right now, the rival boss who'd been trying to take Seung-Woo down for years, who'd sent team after team only to have them mysteriously fail. He'd know by now that Jazmine was out. He'd know the Shadow Guardian had been dismissed. He'd know that Seung-Woo was finally vulnerable. And Mi Kang? She was probably celebrating with expensive champagne, thrilled that she'd finally removed the foreign influence from her son's life. She had no idea that by getting rid of Jazmine, she'd signed her son's death warrant. Jazmine pushed through the lobby doors and stepped into the rain. It was cold and relentless, soaking through her coat within seconds. The streets were nearly empty at this hour, just a few cars passing by with their headlights cutting through the downpour. She walked without direction at first, just moving, just breathing, just trying to process what had happened. 3 years of her life, gone in 24 hours. 3 years of sacrifice dismissed with a signature. Her phone buzzed again. Zendaya. "Where are you?" "I'm coming." Jazmine almost smiled. Her sister, always ready to fight, always ready to defend her, always seeing the truth even when everyone else was blind. But she texted back, "I need to disappear for a while. I'll be fine. I love you." She turned off her phone before Zendaya could respond, before anyone could track her, before she could change her mind. Behind her, in that penthouse tower 43 floors above the city, a jade pendant sat on a desk next to divorce papers. A pendant that looked like simple jewelry, but was actually a sophisticated piece of technology. A hardware key that contained 3 years of encrypted logs, 3 years of video evidence, 3 years of proof of every threat she'd intercepted, every danger she'd eliminated. Every night she'd stayed awake while he slept, watching the monitors, tracking the movements of his enemies, keeping him alive. All of it stored in that glowing piece of jade. But he didn't know that yet. He would, though, soon, when he finally looked at what she'd left behind. When curiosity got the better of him and he plugged that pendant into his computer. When he saw the first video of her taking down the sniper 2 years ago. When he realized that every single time he'd survived against impossible odds, it wasn't luck. It was her. It had always been her. But family, before we go any further, I need to ask you something important. Have you hit that subscribe button yet? Because this story is just beginning, and you don't want to miss what happens when Seung-Woo discovers what's really on that jade pendant. What happens when he realizes the woman he just threw away was the only thing standing between him and destruction. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you, just to know how far our story is going. Trust me, what comes next will leave you speechless. The rain had turned Seoul into a city of ghosts. Jazmine stood on the corner outside the building, watching the blurred lights of passing cars paint streaks across the wet pavement. Her olive trench coat hung heavy with water, and somewhere behind her, 43 floors up, the man she'd loved was probably already forgetting she existed. She pulled the coat tighter and started walking. No destination, no plan. Just movement, because standing still meant thinking, and thinking meant feeling, and she couldn't afford to feel right now. Her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket. Zendaya, probably. Her sister had always known when something was wrong, had always been able to sense when Jazmine needed her. But tonight Jazmine couldn't answer. Couldn't explain how 3 years of sacrifice had been erased with a signature and 24 hours to disappear. The streets were nearly empty at this hour, a few late-night workers hurrying home, a couple sharing an umbrella, normal people living normal lives, unaware that in the towers above them, empires rose and fell on lies and carefully orchestrated betrayals. Jazmine turned down a side street, her boots splashing through puddles that reflected the neon signs of closed shops. She'd walked these streets 1,000 times, always watching, always scanning for threats. Seoul had become her hunting ground, the place where she'd perfected the art of being invisible while protecting the one person who mattered, the one person who'd just thrown her away like garbage. She found herself at a small 24-hour cafe, the kind of place that asked no questions and served coffee to insomniacs and criminals alike. She pushed through the door, and the warmth hit her like a memory of something she'd lost. The owner nodded at her. He'd seen her before, always alone, always ordering the same thing. Black coffee, no sugar. She sat in the back corner, the seat that gave her a view of both the entrance and the emergency exit, and tried to figure out what came next. Leaving Seoul meant leaving everything. Her sister. The few friends who'd looked past her marriage to a crime boss. The city she'd learned to navigate in the dark. But staying meant becoming a target, and she was tired of fighting. Tired of being a weapon for a man who'd never valued what she was. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. Zendaya. I know something happened. I'm at your place. Where are you? Jazmine typed slowly. Can't go back there. I'm leaving the city. The response came immediately. Like hell you are. Tell me where you are right now. Despite everything, Jazmine almost smiled. Her sister had never learned how to take no for an answer. It was one of the things that made her dangerous, and one of the things that made her family. She sent the cafe's address and ordered a second coffee. Zendaya would be there in 20 minutes, ready to fight the whole world if necessary, ready to burn down Seoul if it would make Jazmine feel better. But nothing would make this better. Nothing could fix what Seung-Woo had broken tonight. Back in the penthouse, Seung-Woo stood at the window, watching the rain turn his city into a watercolor painting. The divorce papers sat on his desk, signed and final. The jade pendant Jazmine had left behind caught the light, glowing faintly green. He should have felt relief, should have felt vindicated. The evidence his mother had shown him was conclusive. Leaked routes, intercepted communications, proof that Jazmine had been feeding information to Tae Junho's organization. But instead, he felt hollow. The door opened without a knock. Only one person in his organization had that privilege. Is it done? Mi-kang swept into the room like she owned it, which in many ways she did. Her silk hanbok rustled with each step, traditional and elegant and utterly out of place in the modern steel and glass penthouse. She's gone, Seung-Woo said without turning around. Good. His mother's voice carried satisfaction like poison, sweet and deadly. That woman was a liability from the beginning, a foreign influence who never understood our ways, our culture, our family. She was my wife. She was a mistake. Mi-kang moved to stand beside him, her reflection in the window sharp and unforgiving. A mistake you've now corrected. Tomorrow I'll arrange a meeting with the Park family. Their daughter, Sun-hai, is everything Jazmine wasn't. Refined, connected, Korean. Seung-Woo's jaw tightened. I just divorced my wife 3 hours ago, and you're already arranging my next marriage? I'm ensuring our family's future. Mi-kang's voice was steel, wrapped in silk. The Park family controls the shipping routes we need. An alliance with them would strengthen our position considerably. And Sun-hai is educated, beautiful, and, most importantly, she understands what it means to be part of this world. Like Jazmine didn't? Jazmine was playing you from the beginning. Mi-kang turned to face him fully, her expression hard. The evidence is clear. She's been feeding information to our rivals for months, probably longer. Who knows how much damage she's done. You should be grateful I discovered it when I did, Seung-Woo wanted to argue, wanted to defend the woman who'd just walked out of his life. But the evidence was there, undeniable and damning. His mother had shown him the leaked files, the intercepted communications, the proof that Jazmine had been in contact with Tae Junho's people. I'll meet with the Park family, he heard himself say. But not tomorrow. Give me time. Time to what? Mourn a traitor? Mi-kang's laugh was cold. You're stronger than that, Seung-Woo. You're my son. You don't grieve for people who betray you. You eliminate them and move forward. She left the same way she'd entered, without asking permission, her presence lingering in the room like smoke. Seung-Woo turned back to the window, Somewhere out there in the rain, Jazmine was walking away from everything they'd built, walking away from 3 years of marriage, 3 years of shared secrets and quiet moments between the chaos. 3 years that had apparently been a lie. He should have felt anger, should have felt betrayed, but all he felt was tired. The jade pendant on his desk caught his eye again. Jazmine had said it was valuable, more valuable than he knew. What did that mean? Was it some kind of final message? A threat? He picked it up, feeling the weight of it in his palm. It was heavier than it looked, the carved dragon seeming to pulse with its own inner light. He'd seen Jazmine wear it every day since their wedding, had assumed it was just jewelry, something sentimental. But nothing with Jazmine was ever just anything. Sleep didn't come that night. Seung-Woo found himself back at his desk at 3 a.m, staring at reports he couldn't focus on, drinking scotch that didn't help. The jade pendant sat in front of him like an accusation. More valuable than you know. What had she meant by that? He turned the pendant over in his hands, examining it more closely than he ever had before. The carving was intricate, a dragon's heart, every scale and curve perfectly rendered. But there was something else. A small seam along the edge, barely visible, suggesting the pendant could open. He tried to pry it apart, but it wouldn't budge. It wasn't meant to open manually. On impulse, he pulled his laptop closer and examined the pendant again. There, at the base, was a small USB connector hidden within the carving. So subtle he'd never noticed it before. His finger hovered over the port. What if his mother was right? What if this contained more evidence of Jazmine's betrayal, more proof that she'd been working against him? But what if it didn't? He plugged the pendant into his computer. The screen flickered, then filled with a login prompt. Password, protected. Of course it was. He tried a few obvious combinations. Their wedding date, her birthday, his birthday. Nothing worked. Then, on impulse, he typed, shadow. The screen unlocked. A directory appeared, filled with dated folders. Years of files, organized meticulously. He clicked on the oldest one, dated 2 years ago. A video player opened. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. The location tag said, Rooftop, Gangnam District. The video was night vision footage, grainy and green tinted. He could see a figure crouched on a rooftop, setting up what looked like a sniper rifle. The camera angle suggested Jazmine had been filming from an adjacent building. Seung-Woo leaned forward, his pulse quickening. In the video, the sniper settled into position, the rifle aimed at a penthouse window. His penthouse window. The video zoomed in, and Seung-Woo could see himself through the window, sitting at his desk, completely unaware. Then the camera angle shifted. Jazmine was moving, crossing from one rooftop to another, with the kind of speed and precision that came from years of training. The sniper never saw her coming. The confrontation was quick and efficient. Jazmine disabled the rifle, neutralized the threat, and the video cut to black. Seung-Woo sat frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. He clicked on another file. Another video. This one, from 18 months ago. A restaurant in Itaewon. He watched as Jazmine, dressed as a server, switched 2 wine glasses before they reached his table. The video included a secondary feed showing someone adding something to one of the glasses in the kitchen. Poison. She'd stopped someone from poisoning him and he'd never known. He clicked through more files, each one revealing another incident, another threat, another moment when Jazmine had been standing between him and death. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. 3 years of protection he'd never suspected. 3 years of her putting herself in danger while he'd been completely oblivious. His hands were shaking as he opened the most recent file, dated just 2 days ago. The video showed the docks. 3 men, armed and clearly professionals, moving toward a warehouse where Seung-Woo had been meeting with suppliers. The camera followed them, and then Jazmine stepped into frame. What happened next was brutal efficiency. She took them down one by one, her movements precise and controlled. These weren't amateurs. They were trained operatives, and she handled them like they were nothing. The video ended with Jazmine collecting something from their leader's pocket. She held it up to the camera. A photo of Seung-Woo. The timestamp was from 3 hours before he'd served her divorce papers. She'd been saving his life while he'd been planning to throw her away. Seung-Woo pushed back from the desk. The room suddenly too small, too suffocating. His mother's voice echoed in his head. She was playing you from the beginning. But this wasn't the evidence of a traitor. This was the evidence of a guardian, his shadow guardian, and he'd exiled her based on lies. The sun was rising over Seoul when Seung-Woo found his boss still at the desk, the jade pendant glowing on the screen, surrounded by empty bottles and the wreckage of a man's certainty. "Boss," Sang said carefully, "we need to talk." Seung-Woo looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. "Did you know?" "Know what?" "About Jazmine, about what she was doing." Sang shifted uncomfortably. "I suspected she was more than she appeared, but I didn't know the details. She was good at keeping secrets. She was protecting me." Seung-Woo's voice was raw. "For 3 years, she was protecting me and I didn't see it." "Boss, my mother showed me evidence that Jazmine was betraying us. Leaked routes, intercepted communications. But this," he gestured at the screen, "this is proof that she was doing the opposite." Sang moved closer to the desk, studying the video files. "There's something you should see. I was doing a security sweep of the building this morning and found something in the basement. A room we didn't know existed." "What kind of room?" "Come see for yourself." They took the service elevator down to the basement level, past the parking garage to a section that was supposed to be storage. Sang led him to what looked like a utility closet. But when he opened it, there was another door behind it, secured with a biometric lock. "Jazmine's fingerprints," Sang said. "I had to override the system to get in." The room beyond was small but sophisticated. One wall was covered with maps of Seoul, marked with locations and dates. Another wall held a sophisticated communications array, equipment for intercepting and monitoring frequencies. A third wall was covered with photographs, faces of men Seung-Woo recognized as rivals, enemies, threats to his organization. Many of the photographs had red X marks through them. "She was tracking them," Seung-Woo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "All of them. Not just tracking." Sang pointed to a file cabinet. "These are intercepted communications. Plans for hits, ambushes, operations against us. She was monitoring everything." Seung-Woo opened one of the drawers. Inside were neatly organized folders, each one labeled with a date and a threat level. He pulled one out at random and opened it. Inside was a complete dossier on a planned attack. Dates, locations, personnel involved. And stapled to the front was a report in Jazmine's handwriting. "Neutralized. 3 operatives intercepted. Boss remains unaware. Recommended next surveillance points attached." He opened another folder. Another neutralized threat. Another situation where Jazmine had quietly eliminated a danger before it could reach him. "How did I not know?" he said, more to himself than to Sang. "How did I not see this?" "Because she didn't want you to see it," Sang said quietly. "That was the point. She was your shadow, invisible, protecting you from threats you never knew existed." Seung-Woo moved to the wall of photographs. Some faces he recognized. Others were strangers. But each one represented someone who'd wanted him dead. And each one had been stopped by Jazmine. "The evidence my mother showed me," Seung-Woo said slowly. "The leaked routes, the communications with Tae Jun-ho's people. If Jazmine was really protecting me, why would that evidence exist?" Sang was quiet for a moment, studying the maps on the wall. Then he pointed to one section marked with yellow highlighter. "These are dummy routes, false information. What? Look at the dates. These leaked secrets correspond with planned operations by our rivals. But if you track what actually happened... Sang pulled out his phone, checking something. None of these routes were ever used. We changed them at the last minute every time. Because the leaked routes were bait, Seung-Woo said, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. She was feeding false information to our enemies to expose them. And it worked. Sang pulled out another file from the cabinet. Look at this. Every organization that received the leaked information made moves based on it. Moves that exposed their operations, their personnel, their plans. Jazmine documented all of it. Seung-Woo sank into the chair at Jazmine's desk, the weight of his mistake crushing down on him. The evidence my mother showed me wasn't proof of betrayal. It was proof that Jazmine was actively working to protect us by feeding false intelligence to our enemies. It would seem so. And I threw her out based on it. Seung-Woo's laugh was bitter and broken. I gave her 24 hours to leave or become a target. I served her divorce papers while she was still bruised from protecting me. Sang said nothing. What was there to say? Seung-Woo stood abruptly, his decision made. We need to find her, now, before the 24 hours are up. Boss, there's something else you should consider. Sang's voice was careful. If your mother showed you false evidence to frame Jazmine, that means my mother was working with our enemies to get rid of her. The words tasted like ash. The woman who gave birth to me conspired to exile the woman who kept me alive. What do you want to do? Seung-Woo looked around the secret room at the evidence of 3 years of invisible warfare. 3 years of sacrifice he'd never acknowledged. First, we find Jazmine, he said. Then we deal with my mother. The cafe was nearly empty when Seung-Woo arrived. Just a handful of exhausted night shift workers nursing coffee and pretending the morning wouldn't come. He spotted Zendaya immediately. She sat in the back corner, her bold streetwear a splash of defiant color in the gray dawn light, and her eyes were fixed on the door like she'd been waiting for someone. When she saw him, her expression went from alert to murderous in half a second. You've got some nerve showing up here, she said, her voice low and dangerous. Seung-Woo approached slowly, hands visible, the way you'd approach a cornered predator. I need to talk to you about Jazmine. You lost the right to talk about my sister when you threw her out like trash. Zendaya's hand moved to something in her jacket pocket. You've got 5 seconds to turn around and walk away before I make you. Please. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Seung-Woo didn't beg, didn't plead, but he was doing it now. I made a mistake. I need to find her. A mistake? Zendaya's laugh was sharp and bitter. You served her divorce papers after 3 years of marriage. You gave her 24 hours to disappear. You called her a traitor. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. I was wrong. You think? Zendaya stood, and even though she was smaller than him, her presence filled the space between them like a threat. Do you have any idea what she did for you? Do you have any concept of what she sacrificed? I'm starting to understand. Starting to understand. Zendaya shook her head, disgusted. She came home tonight with bruises on her knuckles and exhaustion in her eyes. You know what she told me? She said she was tired. Not physically tired, soul tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of protecting someone who'd never see her. Tired of loving someone who'd believe his mother's lies over 3 years of loyalty. The words hit like physical blows, each one landing exactly where it should hurt most. Where is she? Seung-Woo asked quietly. Why would I tell you that? Because she's in danger, Without her protection, my enemies will move against me, and when they do, they'll come for her first. She knows too much. Stop too many of their operations. They'll want revenge. Then maybe you should get better security. Zendaya moved toward the door. My sister spent 3 years being your security. She's done. We're done with your world. Zendaya, please. She spun back, and there were tears in her eyes now, rage and grief mixing together. Do you know what she said to me tonight? She said she finally ran out of reasons to stay. That's what you did to her. You took a woman who would have died for you and broke her so completely that she has no reasons left. I know what I did. Seung-Woo's voice cracked. But she's wounded, you said. How badly? Zendaya hesitated, and in that hesitation, Seung-Woo saw the truth. It was worse than she'd let on. She got hurt, stopping the men at the docks, Zendaya said finally. She won't tell me how bad it is, but I saw her moving, carefully, saw her wince when she thought I wasn't looking. She needs medical attention, but she won't go to a hospital, says it's too risky, that your mother's people might be watching. My mother's people? She figured it out about an hour ago. The frame job, the evidence. She said it had your mother's fingerprints all over it. Too convenient, too perfectly timed. Zendaya's expression hardened again. Your mother wanted her gone. And you made it happen. Congratulations. Seung-Woo felt sick. Everything was falling into place. Pieces of a conspiracy he'd been too blind to see. When is she leaving? I'm not telling you that. Zendaya, if you care about your sister at all, don't you dare. Zendaya's voice was pure venom. Don't you dare question whether I care about her. I'm the one who's been here. I'm the one who saw her come home exhausted night after night. I'm the one who watched her disappear into your world and lose pieces of herself protecting someone who never even noticed. You're right, I didn't notice. I didn't see what was right in front of me. Seung-Woo met her eyes directly. But I see it now, and I'm asking you, not as the boss of a crime syndicate, not as the man who hurt your sister, but as someone who's realizing he threw away the only real thing he ever had. Please tell me where she is. Zendaya studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw in his face must have registered as genuine because her expression softened fractionally. She's leaving on a cargo ship tonight. Midnight. Incheon docks. Slip 17. Zendaya's voice dropped. And if you hurt her again, I don't care who you are or how many men you have. I will end you myself. Seung-Woo nodded. If I hurt her again, I'll deserve it. He was halfway to the door when Zendaya spoke again. She really loved you, you know. Not your power, not your empire. You, the man underneath all of it. She saw something in you worth protecting. Her voice was sad now, stripped of anger. I hope you prove her right. The explosion happened at 11:47 a.m. Seung-Woo was in his car, racing back to the penthouse to gather resources for finding Jazmine, when his phone erupted with calls. He answered Sang's immediately. Boss, we have a situation. The lieutenant's voice was tense. The warehouse in Seongdong, it's gone. What do you mean, gone? Bombed. Multiple explosives, coordinated detonation. The whole structure collapsed. We had 15 men inside. Seung-Woo's blood ran cold. Casualties? Still assessing, but it doesn't look good. Boss, this is exactly the kind of operation Jazmine would have caught. She monitored surveillance footage, intercepted planning communications. Without her, we didn't see it coming. Tae Junho? His signature is all over it. The explosives, the timing, the target selection. He's been planning this for weeks, probably months. Jazmine must have been the only thing keeping him from executing. Seung-Woo slammed his hand against the steering wheel. Jazmine had been right to call herself his shadow guardian. Without her, he was blind, defenseless, vulnerable, in ways he'd never had to consider before. Increase security at all facilities, he ordered. Double the guard rotations. I want surveillance on every known Tae Junho location. Already in progress, but boss, Without Jazmine's intelligence network, we're reactive instead of proactive. We're playing catch up. I know. The truth was bitter. Do what you can. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call and immediately received another. This one from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Seung-Woo. The voice on the other end was smooth, amused, familiar. Tai Junho. I heard you lost something valuable recently. My condolences. This is your only warning, Seung-Woo said, his voice ice. Back off, or what? You'll send your wife to stop me? Oh wait, you can't. You threw her away. Tae Junho's laugh was genuinely delighted. I have to thank your mother, really. She did us all a favor getting rid of your little guardian angel. The shadow guardian, I believe some of my men called her. The ghost who kept spoiling our operations. Seung-Woo's grip on the phone tightened. Touch her, and You'll what? You're defenseless without her, and we both know it. That warehouse was just the beginning. I've been planning moves for months that she kept intercepting. Now there's nothing standing between me and taking everything you have. I think you made the biggest mistake of your life, and now you're going to pay for it. Tae Junho's voice turned serious. Your organization falls tonight, and your ex-wife? She's leaving the country, I hear. Might be a shame if something happened before her ship departs, loose ends and all that. The line went dead. Seung-Woo's hands were shaking as he immediately called Sang back. Tai Junho knows about Jazmine's departure. He's planning something at the docks. How would he know? Sang stopped. Your mother. My mother. The words tasted like poison. She's been feeding information to our enemies. She got rid of Jazmine and opened the door for Tae Junho to move against us. Boss, what do you want to do? Send every available man to Incheon docks. I want Slip 17 locked down. And Sang, I'm going to see my mother. It's time we had a conversation. Mi Kang was having tea in the penthouse when Seung-Woo arrived. She sat in the formal sitting room perfectly composed, the picture of elegant authority. She looked up when he entered, her expression pleased. Seung-Woo, I was just about to call you. The Park family has agreed to dinner tomorrow evening. Sunhai is very excited to meet. Stop! His voice cut through her words like a blade. Just stop! Mi Kang's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? The evidence you showed me. The leaked routes, the communications with Tae Junho's people. Where did you get it? I have my sources. Why does it matter? The point is, you framed her. Seung-Woo moved into the room, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't looking at his mother with respect or deference. He was looking at her like she was an enemy. You manufactured evidence to make me believe Jazmine was betraying us. That's absurd. Is it? He pulled out his phone, showing her video footage from the jade pendant. Because I found Jazmine's real work. 3 years of protecting me from threats I never knew existed. 3 years of silent warfare while you poisoned my mind against her. Mi Kang's face remained impassive, but something flickered in her eyes. You found her little archives. So what? That doesn't change the fact that she was communicating with our rivals. She was feeding them false information to expose their operations. Those leaked routes were bait, and you knew it. Seung-Woo stepped closer. You took her intelligence work and twisted it into evidence of betrayal. Why? Because she was wrong for you. Mi Kang set down her teacup with controlled precision. Wrong for this family. A black woman with no connections, no status, no understanding of our culture. She was a liability. She was my wife. She was a mistake that needed to be corrected. Mi Kang stood, drawing herself up to full height. I did what was necessary for this family's future. For your future. You'll thank me eventually. Thank you? Seung-Woo's voice was dangerously quiet. Tae Jun-ho just bombed one of our warehouses, 15 men dead. He called to gloat about how defenseless we are without Jazmine's protection. He knows she's leaving tonight, knows exactly when and where. Who told him that, mother? Mikang's silence was answer enough. You conspired with our enemies. The realization was stunning in its totality. You fed information to Tae Jun-ho to get rid of Jazmine, knowing it would weaken our position. You sold out your own son. I did what you were too weak to do. Mikang's voice was cold now, the mask of maternal concern finally dropping. That woman had too much influence over you. She made you soft, made you forget who you are, what you're meant to be. I removed the obstacle. The obstacle who kept me alive for 3 years. The obstacle who was turning you into something you're not. You're Seung-Woo. You're meant to be strong, ruthless, feared. Not some lovesick fool following around a woman who wasn't even worthy of our name. Seung-Woo looked at his mother, really looked at her, and saw a stranger, saw someone so consumed by pride and prejudice that she'd sacrifice everything, including her son's life, to maintain an image of purity that had never existed in the first place. Where are the original documents? He asked quietly. What documents? The ones you used to create the false evidence. Where are they? Mikang hesitated, and in that hesitation, Seung-Woo moved. He crossed to her private office, ignoring her protests, and began searching. It didn't take long to find them. His mother had never been as careful as she thought. The folder was in her desk drawer, hidden under financial reports. Inside were the original files, the real intelligence Jazmine had gathered, along with notes in his mother's handwriting showing how each piece had been altered to appear as betrayal instead of protection. There were also communication logs, messages between Mikang and Tae Jun-ho negotiating the terms of their arrangement. She'd given him information about their operations in exchange for his cooperation in framing Jazmine. She'd promised him access to their supply routes once Jazmine was gone, and Seung-Woo was properly guided. She'd sold out everything. You gave him everything he needed to destroy us, Seung-Woo said, holding up the documents. You handed our enemy the keys to our organization because you couldn't stand that I loved someone you deemed unworthy. I gave him nothing he could actually use, Mikang said, but her voice lacked conviction. I controlled the information flow. It was a temporary alliance to remove a problem. A temporary alliance with a man who just killed 15 of our people and is planning to kill Jazmine tonight. Seung-Woo's voice broke on Jazmine's name. Your temporary alliance is going to end with everyone I care about dead. Then, perhaps, you should have chosen to care about the right people. The words hung in the air between them, and Seung-Woo realized with stunning clarity that his mother felt no remorse. She'd done what she thought was necessary, and she'd do it again. Sang, he said into his phone, never breaking eye contact with his mother. I need you to come to the penthouse. We have a security situation that needs to be contained. What are you doing? Mikang demanded. What I should have done the moment you showed me that false evidence. Seung-Woo's voice was heavy with exhaustion and grief. I'm removing the real threat to this family. The clock read 9:47 p.m. when Seung-Woo's car screamed through Seoul's streets toward Incheon. He'd left Sang to deal with his mother, a conversation he couldn't afford to have right now. Every minute mattered. Every second brought Jazmine closer to that ship and closer to the danger waiting for her there. His phone rang constantly with updates. Tae Jun-ho's men had been spotted moving toward the docks. At least 24 operatives, heavily armed, clearly planning something significant. Sang had sent their own teams, but they'd hit traffic, been delayed by what looked like deliberately orchestrated accidents. Tae Jun-ho had planned this carefully. He wanted Seung-Woo to know what was happening but arrived too late to stop it. Seung-Woo pushed the car harder, weaving through traffic with the kind of recklessness that came from desperation. The 24-hour deadline he'd given Jazmine was approaching. In less than 3 hours, she'd either be on that ship sailing to safety, or she'd be dead. He couldn't let it be the latter. His phone buzzed with a message from Zendaya. "She's early, already at the docks. Something's wrong." His blood turned to ice. He tried calling Jazmine's number, but it went straight to voicemail. She'd turned off her phone, probably trying to disappear completely. Another message. "I can't reach her. I'm heading there now." "No!" Seung-Woo said, aloud, immediately calling Zendaya. "Don't go there. It's a trap. Tae Jun-ho has men waiting." "Then she needs help." Zendaya's voice was frantic. "My people are on the way. You'll just become another target. Stay away from the docks." "That's my sister. And I'm not losing both of you tonight. Please, Zendaya, trust me this once." The line went quiet, and then, "If anything happens to her, I meant what I said. I will end you." "I know." The Incheon docks sprawled along the waterfront, a maze of shipping containers, warehouses, and industrial equipment. Seung-Woo abandoned his car at the entrance and moved on foot, his weapon drawn, every sense heightened. Slip 17 was in the older section, where smaller cargo ships loaded goods destined for ports that the major carriers didn't service. It was the perfect place for someone trying to disappear. Few cameras, minimal security, lots of shadows. It was also the perfect place for an ambush. Seung-Woo moved carefully between shipping containers, each step measured, watching for movement. His men should have been here by now, should have secured the area. The fact that he couldn't see them meant either they were being very careful or something had gone very wrong. A sound to his left made him spin, weapon raised. "Easy, boss." Sang stepped out of the shadows, 3 more men with him. "We just arrived. Tae Jun-ho's people are already here. At least 20 that we've spotted." "Where's Jazmine?" "The ship, at slip 17. We saw someone board about 10 minutes ago, but we couldn't get close enough to confirm identity." "It's her." Seung-Woo knew it, the way you know things that matter. "They're going to try to take her before the ship departs. We're outnumbered." "I don't care." Seung-Woo started moving toward slip 17. "We hold them off until that ship leaves port." "Boss, that's an order." They moved as a unit through the maze of containers, getting closer to slip 17. The ship was small, probably used for transporting electronics or textiles, the kind of vessel that asked no questions about passengers who paid well. Seung-Woo could see figures moving on the dock now. Tae Jun-ho's men, taking positions, waiting. The ship's engines were running, preparing for departure. Any minute now, the crew would release the moorings and push off. Any minute now, Tae Jun-ho's men would make their move. A gunshot shattered the night. Everything erupted into chaos. Tae Jun-ho's men opened fire on the ship, trying to disable it, trying to trap Jazmine there. Seung-Woo's team returned fire, and suddenly, the docks were a war zone. Bullets ricocheting off metal containers, men shouting, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. Seung-Woo ran toward the ship, staying low, using containers for cover. He had to reach Jazmine, had to get her to safety, He saw her. She stood on the ship's deck, and even from this distance, he could see the determination in her posture, the way she held herself despite the pain she must have been feeling from her injuries. She was scanning the dock, trying to locate the threat, trying to figure out what was happening. Their eyes met across the chaos. For a moment, everything else faded, the gunfire, the shouting, the danger. All of it disappeared, and it was just the two of them, connected by 3 years of history and one terrible mistake. Then, someone grabbed her from behind. Tae Jun-ho himself had somehow gotten onto the ship. He held Jazmine against him, a weapon pressed to her side, and he was smiling. Even from here, Seung-Woo could see that smile, could see the triumph in it. "Ha Seung-Woo!" Tae Jun-ho's voice carried across the water. "Your mother sends her regards!" Everything in Seung-Woo went cold and focused. He had one shot at this. One chance to save the woman he'd thrown away, the woman who'd saved him more times than he could count. He stepped out of cover, weapon raised, fully exposed to enemy fire. Let her go, Tae. This is between you and me. Is it? Tae Junho laughed. Because I think this is between me and her. She's the one who's been ruining my operations for 3 years. She's the ghost who kept stopping my plans. This is personal. Then take your revenge on me. I'm the one who gave her the order. The lie came easily. I'm the one who had her target you. Jazmine's eyes widened. Even now, even after everything, she was trying to protect him, trying to signal that he should stay back, that he shouldn't sacrifice himself. But that's what you did when you loved someone. You stood between them and the bullet. You protected them, even when it cost everything. Finally, he understood what she'd been doing for 3 years. Let her go, Seung-Woo said again, moving closer to the ship. Take me instead. The boss of the Ha organization is worth more than a discarded wife. Seung-Woo, no. Jazmine's voice carried across the water, and hearing her say his name again broke something inside him. Interesting proposition, Tae Junho said, but why should I choose when I can have both? He shifted his grip on Jazmine, and Seung-Woo saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Everything happened in slow motion and lightning, fast all at once. Jazmine moved, twisting in Tae Junho's grip with the kind of speed that came from years of training, turning a sure shot into a grazing wound. Seung-Woo fired, and so did Sung, and so did every one of their men who had a clear line of sight. Tae Junho went down, and so did Jazmine, and Seung-Woo was running, his weapon forgotten, his entire world narrowed down to reaching her before it was too late. He leaped onto the ship as the crew finally released the moorings, as the vessel began to pull away from the dock. He found Jazmine on the deck, her hand pressed to her side, where Tae Junho's shot had grazed her, her breath coming in short gasps. You shouldn't be here, she said, and even now, even bleeding and exhausted, she was beautiful. You should have let me go. I couldn't. Seung-Woo dropped to his knees beside her, his hands hovering over her wound, afraid to hurt her more. I couldn't let you leave thinking I didn't see you, that I didn't value you. You made your choice. You chose to believe your mother's lies. I was wrong. I was so completely, devastatingly wrong. His voice broke. You spent 3 years protecting me, and I spent 3 years being blind. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve another chance. But I'm begging you anyway. Don't leave. Why shouldn't I? Jazmine's eyes were hard, but there were tears there too. Give me one good reason why I should stay after what you did to me. Because I love you. Not your protection, not your skills, not what you can do for me. You. The woman who saw something in me worth protecting. The woman who stood between me and death for 3 years, without asking for recognition or gratitude. The woman I was too blind and stupid and proud to see. Love isn't enough. Not after this. I know. Seung-Woo pulled off his jacket, pressing it against her wound to stop the bleeding. I know it's not enough, but I'm asking anyway. Stay. Let me prove that I finally see you. Let me prove that I'll stand beside you the way you stood in front of me. Jazmine looked at him for a long moment, studying his face like she was trying to find the truth in it. Your empire, she said finally. Your organization, your position as the boss, that's who you are. No. Seung-Woo shook his head. That's what I thought I was. But I was wrong about that too. I'm nothing without you. The organization, the power, the empire, all of it is meaningless if you're not there. So what are you saying? I'm saying I'll walk away from all of it. I'll leave the organization, give up the title, burn down the empire if that's what it takes. I'll follow you wherever you're going, whoever you want to be. I'll prove that I choose you. Not my mother, not my pride, not my power, you. You'd really give it all up? Jazmine's voice was skeptical. Everything you've built? Everything I've built was built on your sacrifice. It was never mine to begin with. Seung-Woo took her hand, careful of her injuries. I'm not asking you to come back to the penthouse. I'm not asking you to return to being my shadow guardian. I'm asking for the chance to be worthy of you, however long that takes, wherever that leads. The ship was pulling further from the dock now. Behind them, the sound of fighting had stopped. Tai Junho was down, his men scattered, but none of that mattered right now. I spent 3 years protecting you, Jazmine said softly. 3 years putting your life before mine. 3 years being invisible. I know, and I can't give you those years back. I can't undo the pain I caused tonight. But I can promise you this. If you give me another chance, you'll never be invisible again. You'll never be undervalued or overlooked or dismissed. I'll spend every day proving that I see you, that I value you, that I love you exactly as you are. Jazmine closed her eyes, and a single tear tracked down her cheek. Your mother will never accept this. She'll fight us. My mother is no longer part of my life. She chose power and prejudice over family. I'm choosing love over everything else. And your organization? Sang can run it. He's been more loyal than I deserve. Or we can dismantle it entirely. I don't care. My only priority is you. Jazmine opened her eyes and looked at him, really looked at him. And whatever she saw there must have been enough, because she squeezed his hand. I can't go back to being what I was, she said. I can't go back to hiding in the shadows, protecting you without acknowledgement. Then don't. Stand beside me instead. Or let me stand beside you. Let me be your guardian for a change. It won't be easy. The people in your world won't accept us. Then we'll build a different world. One where you're not the shadow guardian. One where you're just Jazmine, and I'm just Seung-Woo, and we figure out together who we want to be. A small smile touched Jazmine's lips. You really mean it. Every word. She was quiet for a moment, and then, the ship is leaving port. If you stay, you can't go back tonight. I know. Your organization will be in chaos. Your mother will try to seize control. Everything will fall apart. Let it. Seung-Woo. Let it all fall apart, he said again. You're more important than any empire. You're more important than anything. Jazmine studied him for one more moment, and then she nodded. Okay. Okay? Okay, I'll give you a chance. One chance. You prove to me that you mean what you say, that you'll choose me over power and pride, and your mother's expectations. You prove that you finally see my worth. I will. However long it takes, I will. And if you fail? Her voice was gentle but firm. If you fall back into old patterns, if you let your mother poison you against me again, if you choose your empire over us, I'm gone. Permanently. No second chances after this. I understand. He raised her hand to his lips. I won't fail you again. I swear it. The ship sailed out into open water, leaving Seoul behind, leaving the chaos and the empire and the life they'd known. Somewhere back there, Sang was securing the docks, dealing with the aftermath, probably wondering if his boss had lost his mind. Maybe he had. Or maybe for the first time in his life, Seung-Woo had found something more valuable than power. He looked at Jazmine, his wife, his guardian, the woman who'd saved him more times than he'd deserved, and felt something shift inside him. The desperate need to control, to dominate, to win at all costs. It was fading, replaced by something simpler and infinitely more powerful. Love, trust, partnership. The things Jazmine had been offering for 3 years while he'd been too blind to accept them. Where are we going? He asked. I don't know yet. Somewhere far from Seoul. Somewhere we can breathe and figure out who we are without your empire defining us. That sounds perfect. It won't be easy, she warned again. Starting over never is. I know, but we'll do it together this time. No more shadows, no more secrets. Just us. Jazmine leaned against him carefully, mindful of her wounds, and for the first time in 24 hours, she relaxed. Just us, she echoed. The ship carried them into the night, into uncertainty, into a future that wasn't written in power plays and territorial disputes. Behind them, Seoul's lights faded into the distance. The empire he'd built, the title he'd held, the life he'd thought defined him. All of it left behind for the woman who'd shown him what truly mattered. The woman who'd been standing in front of him for 3 years while he'd been looking right through her. He'd finally learned to see, and this time, he wouldn't look away. Family, if you've made it this far, you know this is more than just a story. It's a reminder that the people protecting us, loving us, standing beside us deserve to be seen. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. Because stories like this, stories about love and sacrifice and second chances, they matter. And they matter even more when we share them together.